Do you still remember all of the presidents, the states, or maybe their capitals? Or maybe there were other facts that you learned in songs when you were young. Using music to help commit information to memory is a powerful tool, and we're going to learn how to use it today. Hello, I'm Kathleen Staten. I'm a musician and a mother. I'm an experienced homeschooler and teacher. So, with all of those credentials, I can assure you I have used music many times in my lessons to help my students learn. I've also used them for myself. The reason that music is such a powerful tool is because, well, it helps us with learning. It improves our ability to process information. It blocks out distracting background noises, and it reduces anxiety, and it helps create those pathways in our brain. It lights up those connections and allows us to have those aha moments. Have you ever tried to learn something when you were really stressed out, like before an exam or cramming information before a big presentation? Usually, our brains don't remember things very well under pressure. Music can really help with that. So, we're going to look at today how we can use music specifically, though, for learning. Music helps us remember things better because of a process. That process is when we take individual pieces of information and we group them together into larger units. Our short term memory can hold about 7 units of information at a time. So, if we can cram more material into each of those units, then we have more memory and control overall. Music allows us to chunk lyrics together by linking words and phrases. The melody and the rhythm act as the framework on which we hang all of this information, and that text becomes easier for us to recall later. The musical structures that are inherent in the music enhance our ability to learn and to retrieve the text of a song. I mean, think about it. Think about just remembering song lyrics, whether they're nursery rhymes or songs that you listen to on the radio. It's much easier to remember them with music than if you just had to say to somebody what the words were. The alphabet song is a great example of this. Our kids learn the 26 letters in a song, and that song sticks with us forever. I bet you could sing it right now. Big groups of information like that work well in a song with a pattern. The ABC song is the same as Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. That's another great example of learning because it rhymes at the end, but we'll get to that in just a minute. I wanted to share with you today a couple of my favorite mnemonic device songs that help recall a huge, vast amount of information. There used to be a series called The Animaniacs, and I have never forgotten Wacko singing about all of the nations of the world to a very familiar song. Do you know this one?
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobago, San Juan, Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam.
I have enjoyed putting this presentation together for you because I really like that song and it keeps getting stuck in my head. I actually can recall most of the countries. You should give it a try. A very famous comedian from even earlier than the Animaniacs, Tom Lehrer, set the periodic table of elements to a very well-known Gilbert and Sullivan song. I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General is a patter song. It's a rapid dissemination of information in a very short span of time. Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire is another great example of a patter song. But getting back to Modern Major General, this is a song that actually appears in many cartoons and shows across all kinds of different genres. But here again is Tom Lehrer with all of the elements.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen, and oxygen, and nitrogen, and rhenium, and nickel, neodymium, neptunium, germanium, and iron, americium, ruthenium, uranium, europium, zirconium, lutetium, vanadium, and lanthanum, and osmium, and astatine, and radium, and gold, tartanium, and indium, and gallium, and iodine, and thorium, and thulium, and thallium. There's yttrium, ytterbium, actinium, rubidium, and boron, gadolinium, niobium, iridium, and strontium, and silicon, and silver, and samarium, and business chromium, lithium, beryllium, and barium.
Now, these were just short excerpts from these two songs, but you should definitely look them up. The links to them are in the supplementary materials. An example that you might be more familiar with is a series of songs that were put out by the public broadcasting system that were called Schoolhouse Rock. Um, let's take a listen to one of those before we talk more about how to create this on your own.
Well, every person you can know, and every place that you can go, and anything that you can show, you know they're nouns. A noun's a special kind of word. It's any name you ever heard. I find it quite interesting. A noun's a person, place, or thing. Oh, I took a train to another state. The flora and the fauna that I saw were really great. Saw some bandits chasing the train. I was wishing I was back home again. I took a train to another state.
That's just another great example of how a fun song with a great rhyme scheme can convey a whole lot of information. At the end of the day, one of the most important things is to understand that kids really love to sing and to enjoy music. If we can embrace that and build on that, then you can create an entire knowledge base for your child. So, when we start talking about how to create songs that can help us to remember things, it's very important that we use familiar songs. Familiar songs are songs that are part of our regular vocabulary, things that everybody would recognize, like the ABC song or Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. London Bridge is falling down. Row, row, row your boat. Frere Jacques, Frere Jacques, Frere Jacques. Happy birthday. Anything like that, that is something that you could all sing easily. My children suggested that I offer to you things also that are familiar, like entry songs to cartoons. Those of you out there who are familiar with Phineas and Ferb, there's 104 days of summer vacation and school comes along just to end it. The annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it. Even I have that one memorized. So these catchy rhyme schemes are so important in addition to the familiar songs. Other songs that are great holiday songs like Jingle Bells, Doe a Deer, or anything that you and your family can all sing together. So while those songs that we looked at earlier, the parts of speech that make up a noun, the entire periodic table of elements, and all of the nations of the world are very complex and fun to watch, what's important about creating songs that help you remember information is actually that you keep it simple. We don't want to try and cram everything into one song, just small units of information. Remember, our brain can really only hang on to 7 at a time. Just like all learning, repetition is really important. When you're creating these songs, which we'll do in just a minute, it's important to have songs that you can remember easily. You want to be able to draw on this repertoire of songs wherever you are to make learning fun. It makes learning happen outside of the classroom because you can sing these songs in the car, in the grocery store, or pretty much anywhere. It's a great way to bring learning into your everyday life. Besides keeping it simple, having an opportunity to repeat and use repetition often. You also want the kids to be able to make it their own. You can invite your older students into the equation to help you compose the lyrics that will fit the rhyme scheme for the music. This is much easier if you start with a simple song that has a regular rhythm to it. It's important that you can count syllables and that you know where the beats lie so that the words line up. Now, I know that music isn't necessarily everyone's thing. It turns out that you can have the same effect by doing this with rhythmic songs like rap or poetry. Committing things to memory through rhyming is an age old tradition, and it's actually one that began with telling stories and passing down stories through oral tradition and generations. To keep it memorable, they often included rhyming patterns linked to visual images like one if by land, two if by sea. Do you know the rest of that? And I on the opposite shore will be. Or maybe you remember in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. By rhyming information, our brains can remember it and encode it more easily. There's actually research on this. A cognitive scientist revealed that when a ballad used two words that rhymed, a song, college students could remember it far better than they could non-rhyming words. It's believed to be so effective because our brains can more deeply process and therefore remember the information. So let's get down to it and figure out how we can remember some information. When you're creating these songs, repetition can be a great tool. There is a math facts available on Amazon that has a CD that goes with it, and they simply do times tables. They only have two songs, but the songs are very repetitive. 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6, and then it changes and it goes down a third. 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20, and then back up the third. And they have a rhythmic track underneath. But that alone and singing those songs helps commit those facts to memory. Creating jingles and songs to help you remember information goes well beyond creating pathways or simply using music as a tool. It also allows you to think about the rhythm and syntax of poetry. It connects language skills like poetry and rhyme, and also the meter. And I'm not just talking about the rhythm and meter of music, but also the rhythm and meter of text. For example, iambic pentameter, when you have a certain number of syllables per line with a foot that is weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong. To have children be exposed to the rhythm of language helps to develop processing as well as memory. So let's try one right now. Let's see if we can create together something to remember all of the colors of the rainbow. The first thing we want to think about is, are there any rhyming words in there? Or maybe we could assign an extra descriptor, like in the noun song, that would help commit it to memory. So I'm thinking of roses are red, violets are blue. And in my head, I have blue. Blue also rhymes with two. So how about red and blue, purple too? And then that leaves us three colors: yellow, green, and orange. And that would fit to Jingle Bells. Red and blue, purple too, yellow, green, and orange. What else do you need to remember? How about days of the week? Starfall, a popular reading website, has some wonderful songs for young students to help them remember. The one I always remember is the months of the year: January, February, March, and April, May, June, July, and August, September, October, November, December. Those are the months of the year. So while we're speaking of measurements of time, coming back to just the text and the rhythmic pattern, even I have to think about how many days are in each month. So when I'm writing the date and I have to remember, is there a 31 or which months have just the 30 days, I always go back to the rhyme. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, but February has 28. The leap year, which comes once in 4, gives February one day more. So again, we're developing that feeling of rhythm. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. If you can clap along to those kinds of poems, then that helps to develop the same rhythm that you would need for dancing, for music, or for sports. It also helps in your syntax choice as you're learning the art of rhetoric and writing. So circling back, music is indeed a very powerful tool for the brain for so many reasons. It helps create the right learning environment for us, and additionally, it helps us to remember things. To find out more ways to use music in your lessons, check out the link in the description of this video where you can find a list of resources on jingles that have already been made and other songs to help you remember facts. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next educational episode.